Hello, welcome back to a new video where I'm going to read to you and share my appreciations about a paper that I'm going to release today. They have been around, but a few people have been looking at it. So, what about the internet divide or the digital divide? We live in a knowledge intensive society which our activities are an increasingly important component of the economy. The distribution of knowledge across the population is increasingly linked to the stratification. The mass diffusion of the internet across the population has led many to speculate about the potential effects of the new medium of society at large. Enthusiasts have heralded the potential benefits of the technology, suggesting that it will reduce inequality by lowering the barriers to information and allowing people of all backgrounds to improve their human capital. But what is human capital? Do you actually think that the internet itself are able to enhance our capabilities? Or would there be like something more? Expand their social networks, search for and find jobs, have better access to health information, and otherwise improve their opportunities and enhance their life chances. In contrast, others caution that the differential spread of the internet across the population will lead to increasing inequalities, improving the prospects of those who are already in privileged position, while denying opportunities for advancement to the underprivileged. Much attention both among academic researchers and in policy circles have been paid to which segments of the population have access to the internet or are internet users. Access is usually defined as having a network connected machine in one's home or workplace. Use more specifically refers to people's actual use of the medium beyond merely having access to it. The digital divide is most often conceptualized in binary terms. Someone either has access to the medium or does not, or someone either uses the internet or does not. We can define an understanding of the digital divide and include in this discussion of different dimensions of this interesting topic. In a society where knowledge intensive activities are increasingly important components of the economy, yes, it is important. Although the internet has been around for several decades, it saw wide diffusion only in the second part of the 1990s. Its growth has been especially large since the emergence of graphical browser software for the web in 1993. The number of Americans online grew from 25 million in 1995, when only 3% of Americans had never used the internet before, to 83 million in 1999. With the rise of the internet's importance in all spheres of life, there has been increasing concern regarding the patterns of its diffusion across the population. Reports have documented the clear presence of an internet digital divide. Inequalities in access to and use of the medium, with lower levels of connectivity among women, racial, and ethnic minorities. People with lower incomes, rural residents, and less educated people. Whereas most reports identify differences among various segments of the population, over time, studies emphasize the increasing diffusion of the median among the population at large. There is considerable disagreement about whether Inequalities in access and use are increasing or decreasing across different demographic categories. Some argue that with time, the majority of the population will be online and that no policy intervention is necessary to achieve equal distribution of the median across the population. Others emphasize the increasing differences among various segments of the population at large. These approaches are in stark contrast despite the fact that most of these reports often relied on the same source of data. Mass media seem to reinforce knowledge gaps across the population. Past studies have found evidence for this in the realm of general foreign affairs, international political knowledge, and participation. The fusion of daily TV news, information, and a broad range of other information contexts. With respect to the web, the Matthew effect predicts that those having more experience with technologies and more exposure to various communication media will benefit more from the web by using it in a more sophisticated manner and for more types of information retrieval. Evidence has already been presented regarding the connection between the use of traditional news and entertainment media and computers and the internet. Such findings suggest that use of the internet leads to greater information gaps. As more people start using the web for communication and information retrieval, it becomes less useful to merely look at binary classification of who is online when discussing questions of inequality in relation to the internet. Rather, we need to start looking at differences in how those who are online access and use the medium. Such a refined understanding of the digital divide implies the need for a more comprehensive term for understanding inequalities in the digital age. Some schools have suggested ways in which we need to distinguish between different types of internet use. One such approach suggests distinguishing between divides of three levels. One, the global divide, which encompasses differences among industrialized and lesser developed nations. Second, the social divide, which points to inequalities among the population within the nation. And third, a democratic divide, which differs to the differences among those who do and do not use digital technologies to engage and participate in public life. Do you agree with this categorization? Wilson in 2000 took this classification a step further by identifying four components of full social access. 1. Financial access, which indicates whether users, individuals, or whole communities can afford connectivity. 2. Cognitive access, which considers whether people are trained to use the medium and to find and evaluate the type of information for which they are looking. 3. Production and content access, which looks at whether there is enough material available that suits users' needs. And 4. Political access, which takes into account whether users have access to the institutions that regulate the technologies they are using. We also have an alternative approach suggesting that in addition to the physical sites of access, other factors such as content, language, literacy, education, and institutional structures must also be taken into consideration when accessing the level of information and communication technology used in a community. These researchers all call for a more holistic approach to the study of digital inequality. As the preceding refined approaches illustrate, there are factors beyond mere connectivity that need to be considered when discussing the potential implications of the Internet to the inequality. In addition to relying on basic measures of access to a medium, we need to consider the following more nuanced measures of use. First, technical means, quality of the equipment. Second, autonomy of use, location of access, freedom to use the medium for one's preferred activities. Third, social support networks, availability of others to whom one can turn for assistance with use, size of networks to encourage use. Fourth, experience, number of years using the technology, types of use patterns. These four factors together contribute to one's level of skill. A skill is defined as the ability to use the new technology efficiently and effectively. We are going to consider these components, which will give analysis on digital inequality at the individual user level. We continue with the internet use, and for this, several dimensions of equipment quality are relevant to questions of equal access. People who have access to top quality computers with good and reliable internet connections at home or at work are much more likely to exhibit high levels of sophistication than those without access to such technical resources. Better hardware, better software, and a faster connection are the infrastructural basis of having access to all that the web has to offer. When using outdated equipment, more time may be necessary to reach one line's resources, resulting in fewer opportunities for users to acquaint themselves with and explore varied corners of the web. Users may become frustrated by long download times and the inability to access certain sites, potentially leading to less enthusiasm towards the medium and less time spent exploring its features. Although we have the many people have access to the internet and a public library, access remains easiest for those who are connected through home or work computers. There are differences in how easily people can reach libraries quickly and whether they are free at times when these resources are available. Regarding on the job access, those with restrictions on their work computer use will not have the freedom to enhance their own time and skills due to the limitations placed on them by their employer or employment environment. These differences in autonomy of use are likely to influence people's level of web use sophistication. Those who have easier access to resources are more freedom to use them are likely to extract more from the medium. We also have the social component. We can emphasize on the importance of social support networks in the spread of new technologies. Those with exposure to innovations in their surroundings are more likely to adopt new technologies such as personal computers. The ability of friends and family who are also internet users provides support for problems encountered while using the medium, as is also a source of new knowledge via advice and recommendations. It is also a source of encouragement to go online as there are more people with whom to communicate and share. For online skills in particular, this implies that people who are able to draw on their social contacts for information on how to use the medium will learn more quickly and will be exposed to a broader repertoire of online services than those who have few people to whom they can turn for advice underweight use. A study of home computer diffusion found that people were more likely to give up using technology when they had no neighbors or friends to call on for support. By contrast, people whose social circles include users knowledgeable about the web can draw on their networks for site recommendations and suggestions when they run into problems. Experience is a relevant dimension to consider because it tells us whether people are investing sufficient time in a technology to become familiar enough with a convenient and efficient use. The amount of prior experience people have with the internet is likely to affect their online actions. People who require to use of a computer and online resources for their job or school will have invested time in acquiring higher levels skills in this activity, as the acquired knowledge is necessary to perform their work. People who spend more time online, whether at work or any other location, will likely acquire more knowledge than the web and thoughts about the web and thus will have better online skills. Finally, people who have been internet users for longer are expected to be better at finding information online as they have more experiences to draw on. Moreover, these are people who were early adopters and thus tend to be more innovative, suggesting more willingness to explore the new medium and familiarize themselves with it. We also can look in an evolutionary aspect of how literacy has been defined and refined over time is a helpful comparison to show that the focus on and necessity of basic access to a medium is gradually replaced by a more refined understanding of what it means to have this efficient access to a communication medium. Whereas initially literacy simply meant the ability to sign one's name, someone processing solely those writing skills today will not be deemed literate. Sorry. Such baseline writing skills today cannot be equated with efficient access to information, whether in the form of government documents or job application forms. Similarly, when considering the potential implications of the internet for social inequality, we cannot rely on a binary classification of who is a user and who is not. Rather, we must also focus on people's ability to use the technology effectively and efficiently. But how is it possible that a skill is a relevant factor when it comes to the internet use given that material posted online, all billion pages worth, is equally available to all users via the correct web address? Beyond the hurdle of gaining access to a network connected machine, the zeros and ones that transfer the multitude of information on the network to the user do not discriminate among people. Once the correct web address is entered, the data are accessed and the information is already available. But how does a user find a particular website? Consider the following scenario. A user is looking for information about political candidates. In particular, is interested in comparing the views of two presidential candidates about a controversial issue. There are thousands of websites that describe, critique, and compare political actors. However, a simple search of a candidate's name or the word you're interested about will not yield any obvious results. Rather, it will present the user with hundreds, if not thousands, of possible links to pages with only one of the two topics. In this case, a user who understands how search queries can be refined through the use of quotation marks, the use of Boolean operators, and the use of multiple terms in a query will likely turn up helpful results, almost regardless of the search engine used. A knowledgeable user may type the following into a search box and quickly find relevant results. Nonetheless, even the use of such refined search queries requires additional know-how on the part of the user. Many sites come cluttered with images and text, often in an attempt to make a commercial venture viable, and it sometimes becomes quite challenging to find a specific information on a page. Among 100 participants in a study that surveyed a random sample of internet users' online skills, only one ever used the find function, available in all browsers and all platforms, to search for a term on a web page. In the case of this task, looking for the word or a specific word through use of the find function will have aided many participants. This action can significantly reduce the effort it takes to find a specific content on a page, yet almost no one uses it. The findings from this study suggest that users differ significantly in their online skills. And what about you? Do you think that having previous online skills is something necessary for someone to navigate on the web? Or for you is it enough to turn on your computer, have an internet source of connection, and get online into the web? Let me know. I'll talk to you in another video. Bye bye.